Dimension 1. The 2D local map Paterson, New Jersey. To kick off the roundup, our 2D map tracks the literal, physical footprints of Patersonians and incoming visitors this week. Two major hubs saw unprecedented movement, while four historic neighborhood anchors are preparing for absolute silence. 1. The World Cup footprint and fan zones. The heaviest foot traffic in the city this week didn't come from commuters, but from a massive surge of global soccer fans. Local venues and designated fan zones rolled out the red carpet with watch parties, music, and food festivals. The traffic shift. This influx of visitors drastically altered the usual flow around downtown and local business corridors, creating an economic boom but heavily straining local infrastructure. The friction. The sheer density of people triggered intense, quality of life, law enforcement operations. Passaic County Sheriff authorities executed major sweeps targeting illicit activity specifically drawn in by the World Cup crowds, resulting in multiple arrests and thousands of dollars seized. 2. The final bell. 4 school closures. If the fan zones were loud and packed, 4 specific coordinates on our Paterson map are experiencing their final, emotional wave of traffic. Today marks the official shuttering of 4 elementary schools after a chaotic, last-minute state reversal. Alexander Hamilton Academy, Norman S. Weir School, Public School 1, Young Men's Leadership Academy. Roughly 1,000 students and their families walked through these doors for the absolute last time today. This massive district restructuring completely alters the daily morning commute and neighborhood foot traffic patterns for thousands of families moving into the next school year. Dimension 1. The 2D local map Fair Lawn, NJ. To kick off our weekly roundup, our 2D map charts the physical movement of Fair Lawn residents, tracking where local footprints are heaviest this week and how suburban life is shifting into a new gear. 1. The commuter spike, the Radburn and Broadway influx. Foot traffic at Fair Lawn's primary transit nodes, specifically the Radburn and Broadway NJ transit stations, experienced a sharp, heavy surge this week. The movement. Thousands of residents are filtering through these platforms, driven by a massive regional push. With the FIFA World Cup events kicking into high gear right across the county line at the New Jersey-New York Stadium, MetLife Fair Lawn has effectively become a high-traffic, launching pad. The strain. Local parking lots and surrounding business corridors along Fair Lawn Avenue have seen an influx of vehicles and pedestrians as people look for seamless transit routes to avoid stadium traffic, turning our local stations into bustling regional hubs. 2. The final bell and the 39% financial reality. Today marks the official conclusion of the school year for Fair Lawn Public Schools. The physical footprints of thousands of students have officially cleared out of classroom hallways, redirecting en masse toward local parks and backyard pools. However, as the buildings go quiet, the administrative offices are dealing with massive structural movement. The coordinates. The Board of Education office is locking in the final logistics of its massive $109 million budget. The friction. The quiet on the ground masks an intense behind-the-scenes adjustment. The district is absorbing a massive 39% spike in private health insurance renewal costs, equating to $5.3 million. Local administrators spent the week finalizing roughly $3.3 million in operational efficiencies and tech leasing restructures to offset the tax impact on the very homes these students just walked back to today. 3. The seasonal migration, Darlington Lakes. With school officially out and temperatures climbing, the physical trajectory of Fair Lawn families dramatically shifted north this week. The lakes at Darlington County Park officially opened for full, daily summer operations. Radar and traffic data show a massive, repeating daily migration pattern. Local traffic emptying out of Fair Lawn residential grids and pouring into the county park's swimming and recreation zones. Now that we've mapped the physical ground here in Fair Lawn, from the crowded platforms of Radburn Station to the families packing up for the summer lakes, we pull the camera upward. How do these suburban movements connect to the structural, macro-level changes sweeping the rest of the United States? 2.5. The 2.5D State Map, New Jersey. Pulling back from the specific street corners of Patterson and Fair Lawn, we lift our camera to a 2.5D perspective. We are looking across the entire Garden State grid, tracking massive, sweeping human migrations across county lines as the summer season colliding with global events completely alters the state's travel map. 1. The shore migration, the Parkway influx. The single largest statewide movement of the week is the massive southward migration. The Garden State Parkway and Atlantic City Expressway are experiencing peak volume as hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans and out-of-state tourists head toward the Jersey Shore for the first official peak weekend of summer. The flow, digital highway signs and toll data show bumper-to-bumper traffic stretching from Monmouth County all the way down to Cape May. The pulse, coastal hospitality hubs, boardwalks, and rental properties are reporting near 100% occupancy, shifting the state's economic and physical weight heavily toward the coastline. 2. The Gateway Gridlock, MetLife and the World Cup Corridor. While the shore pulls traffic south, the World Cup is pulling an immense international and national crowd directly into the Meadowlands corridor. The altitude, NJ Transit has activated its highest-tier transit scheduling, creating a non-stop human conveyor belt between Penn Station, New York, Secaucus Junction, and the New Jersey-New York Stadium. The impact. This massive node of movement is rippling outward, causing major delays and heavily increased state police presence across Route 3, Route 17, and the New Jersey Turnpike as fans from across the globe descend on North Jersey. 3. Statewide school release. As seen locally, the final school bells have rung across almost all of New Jersey's 600-plus school districts this week. Visually, this has completely cleared out the morning rush hour, school bus bottlenecks, on state routes, but it has simultaneously flooded state parks, regional malls, and community hubs with millions of free-roaming students, fundamentally changing daytime traffic patterns from Sussex to Cumberland County. We've watched the local footsteps in our towns, and we've seen how they feed into the massive arteries of the Garden State, from the gridlocked transit corridors of the Meadowlands to the packed beaches of the shore. Now, we lift our lens even higher into the 3D space, mapping how these regional movements collide with the structural shifts of the entire nation. Dimension 3, the 3D National Map, United States. Pulling back to a panoramic view of the United States, we see a nation in high-velocity transit. The 3D layer maps the convergence of summer vacations, sweeping federal legal shifts, and intense sports tourism that is fundamentally altering America's airspace and highway grids. 1. The capital congestion, the mall gridlock. If you tilt the 3D map toward Washington, D.C., the visual heat signature shifts directly to the National Mall. The movement. Millions of summer tourists are arriving for peak museum season, but the true epicenter of movement this week was the opening of the Great American State Fair on the National Mall. The Pulse. Headlined by major political addresses and massive crowds, the event has turned the nation's capital into a hyper-dense pedestrian choke point, heavily impacting regional transportation networks feeding into the district from Virginia and Maryland. 2. Legal fault lines, the immigration flight path. A massive institutional shift this week has redrawn the internal borders of the 3D map. On Thursday, the Supreme Court handed down monumental 6-3 decisions regarding immigrant deportations, specifically involving Haitian and Syrian nationals. The velocity. This ruling sets off an immediate logistical ripple across the country. Federal immigration enforcement agencies and regional processing hubs are already shifting resources. The vector. Legal aid organizations, sanctuary cities, and federal transportation grids are preparing for a massive shift in human movement as thousands of individuals face newly expedited legal timelines, creating high-stress activity hubs from Florida to Texas. 3. The World Cup Intersect, the Stadium Network. As we saw with Secaucus and the Meadowlands in New Jersey, the 3D map of the U.S. is currently anchored by 11 massive structural pillars, the FIFA World Cup stadium hubs. The flow, air traffic routes this week have completely realigned. Massive influxes of international flights are putting unprecedented strain on hubs like LAX, Miami International, and JFK. The collision. Millions of fans are crisscrossing the country following group stage drama, like the US. Men's national team's high-stakes clash against Turkey at the Los Angeles Stadium in Inglewood. This is creating a constant, heavy churn of interstate travel that is completely defying normal summer vacation baselines. Transition cue to 4D. We've tracked the foot traffic in our neighborhoods, mapped the veins of the Garden State, and watched the national airspace swell with millions of travelers and moving legal tides. But to truly understand why our world is shifting, we must look at the final dimension. We step into the 4D international map, where we track how these physical movements are bound to the invisible, unrelenting march of global time, global conflicts, and international. Dimension 4, the 4D international map. Finally, we step into the fourth dimension. The 4D map tracks how the physical arrivals and departures we witnessed across the globe this week are entirely bound to the invisible, ticking clocks of international crises, shifting climate thresholds, and high-stakes global diplomacy. 1. The disaster clock. Venezuela's 72-hour rescue window. If you look at the 4D coordinate for South America, a massive, tragic race against time is underway. Following the devastating double earthquakes that shattered Venezuela on Wednesday, the death toll has climbed past 235 people. The ticking clock. First responders and UN humanitarian teams are on a brutal, literal 72-hour survival countdown. The flow. Nearly 7 million people are directly affected as international aid corridors struggle against fractured infrastructure. The physical movement here is a desperate scramble through the rubble, fighting the clock before the window for finding survivors beneath collapsed structures officially slammed shut. 2. The geopolitical countdown. US-Iran peace chronology. Time is moving differently along the Washington-Tehran axis. Following months of intense, multi-nation posturing, the clock officially started ticking on a strict, high-stakes 60-day negotiation window between the United States and Iran to hammer out a lasting peace memorandum. The strategic vectors. Diplomatic flight paths are lighting up across the map as intelligence agencies and negotiators mobilize. The friction. Every hour matters. The physical convergence of these global leaders is highly volatile, operating under an intense counterintelligence cloud as negotiators race against hard legislative deadlines and building political pushback back home. 3. The climate threshold. Europe's historic heat dome. If you look across the Atlantic to Western Europe, human movement has been entirely dictated by a massive, record-shattering climate event. An intense, late June heatwave sweeping up from the Iberian Peninsula has completely altered daytime traffic across France, Spain, and the UK. The temporal shift. France recorded its hottest June day on record this week, with temperatures hitting an unbelievable 43.8 degrees Celsius, 110.8 degrees Fahrenheit in western parts of the country. The migration. This isn't just weather, it's a massive behavioral shift. Millions of citizens have completely altered their daily timetables, abandoning urban centers during peak daylight hours and sparking mass, chaotic weekend migrations toward lakes and coastal regions to escape a literal furnace. Dimension 4, the 4D International Map Pakistan Leadership Update. We pivot the global camera back to Pakistan's state apparatus. This week, we saw an unprecedented, multi-layered operation across 3 continents, where top leadership executed a divide and conquer strategy to anchor a historic peace corridor, all while navigating immense physical danger. 1. The Alpine Summit, Bergenstock, Switzerland. The 4D map highlights intense motion in the Swiss Alps, where the executive and military gears finalized the historic Islamabad Mo. The leadership on site. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Chief of Defense Forces Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir arrived on Sunday, June 21st. The mission and danger. Facing intense diplomatic friction, they mediated between U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Iranian leader leadership, securing a 3 a.m. technical breakthrough. This path was fraught. Military intelligence confirmed and neutralized a highly credible assassination plot against Field Marshal Munir while in Switzerland, allowing the delegation to complete the mission safely. 2. The Red Sea Shield, Cairo, Egypt. While the Swiss talks were underway, the diplomatic vector expanded immediately to North Africa. The leadership on site, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Issaq Dar. The mission, Dar landed in Cairo, Egypt on Sunday, June 21st, where he used a regional summit to announce that all transit fees and tolls through the Strait of Hormuz would be completely frozen to maintain global energy stability during the roadmap. 3. The Eurasian Legal Front, St. Petersburg, Russia. Simultaneously, the judiciary opened a crucial strategic front. The leadership on site, Chief Justice of Pakistan Yahya Afridi. The vector and impact. Travel paths show Chief Justice Afridi in St. Petersburg, Russia for the 14th International Legal Forum, where he anchored Pakistan's long-term institutional stability by signing historic judicial and technological cooperation pacts with Russian counterparts. 4. The Humanitarian Kitchen, Kosher. In perhaps the most unique vector of the entire operation, the map tracks a mission focused purely on building cultural and human trust. The leadership on site, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Adrian Moore. The mission, in a critical parallel track, Chief Justice Moore traveled directly to the specific coordinate of Kosher to execute a cultural trust offensive. He prepared and organized a special Shabbat meal, using his culinary artistry as a neutral bridge to foster human connection and good faith among international peace delegates at a crucial moment. 5. The retrenchment, Islamabad, Pakistan. By midweek, all vectors snapped cleanly back to the capital of Islamabad to manage the rapid fallout. The leaders return. All key figures returned by Tuesday, June 23rd, to consolidate the gains. Field Marshal Munir immediately hosted Iranian President Pezeshkian for military-to-military guarantees. PM Sharif briefed the National Assembly on the Swiss breakthrough, and Deputy PM Dar returned to Islamabad to manage the physical repatriation of the 22 Iranian crew members from the seized tanker, the first humanitarian outcome of this synchronized week of diplomacy. The master wrap-up, bringing it home. From the local train platforms of Fairlawn, up through the crowded transit veins of the Garden State, across an American airspace packed with World Cup tourism, and finally into the ticking, high-stakes countdowns of our global landscape, every footprint counts. Every dimension connects. And it all shapes the world we